Hey, have you ever heard of zebra cichlids? They're actually these little tiny fish that stay loyal to their chosen mate. They build a little nest together, work together to raise their young, and scientists have even discovered that they're capable of feeling real heartbreak. And that's exactly what we're talking about today, love. Hey guys, it's Chris. So I think we can all agree that since the dawn of time, love and relationships have been a central part of the human experience. Romeo and Juliet, Titanic, so many epic stories fueled by this one powerful feeling. Tell me, Gustav, how would you feel about us finding you a girlfriend? But when someone starts giving you butterflies, do you actually know what's happening inside your body when you fall in love? Did you know, for example, that the organ behind all this emotional chaos isn't your sensitive little heart, but rather your brain? Do you think love can really last a decade? And what does science actually have to say about something that feels so irrational? No time to waste. Let's dive into today's big question. Being in love for 10 years, what's it like? Well, to experience love, you first need someone to fall in love with. And sometimes love shows up when you least expect it. Take Gustav, for example. He has an appointment at the barbershop today. And who better to handle our hero's facial hair than the best of the best? Everyone, meet Gustine. Oh, and it's clear our guinea pig isn't immune to her charm or her web of scissors. Yeah, I think it's safe to say Gustav just got hit with love at first sight. In fact, they say it only takes a fifth of a second to fall for someone. That's according to a team of researchers who spent 6 months studying brain activity with MRI scans. Their findings? Falling in love lights up at least 12 different regions of the brain, including those tied to emotion, motivation, and pleasure. But how is it even possible to fall in love with someone at first sight? According to neuroscience, love at first sight is actually just a reactivation of emotions tied to buried memories. Without realizing it, the person who falls in love might recognize facial features, body language, or even personality traits that resemble someone they once knew and maybe even once loved. That glimpse of the past triggers fond memories the brain had quietly filed away, and just like that, the neural circuits associated with love start firing all over again, right in that very moment. And of course, this comes with a few physical side effects. Your heart rate goes up, your skin goes pale, and you start to sweat. Yeah, falling in love isn't exactly a walk in the park, and this is only the beginning. Alright, we're 10 days in, and let's be honest, Gustav has been visiting the barbershop a lot more than usual. Why, do you ask? Well, because he's really into Gustine, of course. He likes her, they've started flirting, and every time her hand accidentally brushes his, his hypothalamus is lighting up like fireworks. The hypothalamus is a part of the lower brain that handles basic functions like eating, drinking, sleeping, and yes, reproduction. It also plays a major role in how we process pleasure and pain, which, as it turns out, are the very things that fuel desire. And that leads to a pretty fascinating truth. Falling in love is automatic or subconscious. It's not something we control. It's like walking. Your brain does it for you without you even having to think about it. That's because romantic attraction barely involves other parts of the brain like the cortex, the zone responsible for critical thinking and reflection. And you know what happens when someone makes you feel that way, let's just say affects certain parts of your body, if you know what I mean. And while we're chatting, things seem to be progressing quite nicely for our dear Gustav. Look at that cheeky guy. You've probably heard of testosterone, the sex hormone found in both men and women. Sure, some athletes take testosterone to boost their performance, but its main job is fueling sexual desire. And judging by those two, I'd say their levels of testosterone just spiked. But the mechanisms involved in sex are much more complex than just one hormone. From the moment Gustav and Gustine touch, their brains release dopamine, the motivation hormone, helping them tune out of the world and focus entirely on each other. Once things start heating up, it's luteinizing hormone's turn, or LHRH, which keeps them craving touch and wanting to stay close. Then comes the endorphins during climax, let's say. These create a sense of deep calm and bliss, like you're floating in your own little universe. And for Gustav, there's also a surge of oxytocin, often called the cuddle hormone. It helps you form an emotional bond with your partner and makes you want to do it all over again. I think we can all agree that sounds like a nice time, but once that desire has been satisfied, what happens next? It's now been 10 weeks of sweet romance for Gustave and Gustine. So, how's it going for our lovebirds? Well, would you look at that? These two are completely smitten. Love is in the air. They seem totally inseparable. But where does that intense feeling come from? The one that makes you want to be glued to your partner all the time. Believe it or not, love is kind of like a drug. Sure, the effects are different, but your brain reacts to it in the same way. For example, if you show Gustave a photo of his darling Gustine, his heart races and he lights up with excitement and euphoria. And that, my dear Gustave, is the same effect triggered by cocaine. Yeah, you heard me right. In a way, Gustave is literally love drunk, or rather love drugged. He's not exactly thinking straight anymore. In fact, scientists have observed that when someone looks at a photo of the person they love, certain areas of the brain go quiet, especially the parts responsible for judgment and critical thinking. And just like any drug, you can become totally addicted to it. You've probably seen one of your friends freaking out because they hadn't seen their girlfriend for 2 whole days. And sure, it might seem a bit dramatic, but at that point, just like with Gustave, their brain is in serious withdrawal mode. When someone is in that phase of intense romantic love, their brain's reward circuit kicks into overdrive. Basically, just being around the person they love sends dopamine rushing through their system, creating a powerful wave of pleasure they'll want to chase after again and again. It's like they're craving a hit, a dose of feel-good, just like any other addiction. And the parts of the brain linked to memory, like the amygdala, store that intense pleasure deep down, which only reinforces that burning desire to feel it again. Kinda scary when you think about it, right? But hey, they say love only lasts 3 years, don't they? So technically you can break that emotional dependency. Let's check in and see what happens after a few years together. So, it's been 3 whole years since Gustave and Gustine first fell head over heels for each other. But how are things going now? But wait a second, what happened to all that passion and fireworks? You two are really chill tonight. Yeah, definitely a different vibe from those wild early days, but that's totally normal. Remember that crazy hormonal cocktails that had them all over each other at the beginning? Well, it doesn't last forever. That intense, all-consuming passion, that whirlwind of desire and butterflies only sticks around for a few years. Though let's be real, that number isn't set in stone. Scientists think those first 3 years might be nature's sweet spot. Just enough time to fall in love, have a child, and raise that child until they're a little more independent. Okay, sure, when you put it like that, it sounds a bit harsh, and it's definitely not how things actually work in our modern society. But from an evolutionary standpoint, that short window might be just enough time to ensure the survival of the species. And whether we realize it or not, a lot of our behavior still comes down to that one basic drive: survival. That could explain why, after a certain amount of time, our hormone levels drop, the urgency fades, and things start to feel a little less fiery. Of course, let me be clear, this is just a theory, because even when the passion fades, that doesn't mean the love has to fade with it. Passionate love gradually transforms into something more stable, what we might call attachment love. It doesn't mean you're in a trance every time you see your partner anymore, but just look at them, still sweet, still in love, just a little calmer in a more peaceful way. And that loving glow, we can thank oxytocin. Yep, the same hormone we mentioned earlier. It's known as the bonding hormone, and when it teams up with vasopressin, the result is a kind of biochemical cocktail for loyalty and commitment. Scientists have even tested this on prairie voles, and after being given a dose of these hormones, the usually solitary creatures became affectionate and even monogamous. Pretty impressive for such a lone little rodent. As for Gustave, he still feels an unmistakable sense of comfort and joy every time he's near Gustine. But here's the big question: will physical connection alone be enough to keep their relationship strong forever? Let's fast forward a bit to find out. Alright folks, we made it. We've reached the big 10-year milestone. But for the sake of this experiment, Gustave and Gustine are going to have to go through a rough patch. Because yeah, love can last over 10 years thanks to a deep emotional bond, but sometimes love fades completely. You know, Gustave, sometimes love just isn't enough. Judging by the state he's in, I don't even have the heart to tell him that Gustine has already packed her bags and left. Because yeah, just because you love someone doesn't mean it's always easy. Sometimes life gets in the way, things get difficult, and suddenly love just isn't enough anymore. Ah yeah, there it is. He just found out. Poor guy. Go easy on him, okay guys? What he's feeling right now isn't just emotional. Heartbreak activates the same brain regions as intense physical or psychological pain. That's why it can feel so unbearable, just like it's actually hurting you. And unfortunately, it can last quite a while. Remember what we said earlier, love works like a drug? So what happens when an addict is cut off from their supply? Obsession, withdrawal, total inability to think about anything else. After being hooked on endorphins and all those feel-good hormones, Gustave's brain is now deep in withdrawal. He's desperately chasing that reward, willing to do whatever it takes to feel that light, happy sensation again. Without his regular dose, he struggles to move forward. Focus becomes difficult and functioning normally feels impossible. In moments like this, even the smallest reminder can send someone spiraling. A photo, a smell, a memory of the person, and Gustave is no exception. The good news? He will recover, just like people eventually overcome addictions. The brain has built-in systems to help us let go and move on to seek out a new partner when the time is right. According to researchers from St. Louis University and the University of Cincinnati, this trait of being able to bounce back is even considered evolutionarily advantageous for our species. People who can move on and then reproduce with someone else are more likely to pass on their genes. So from an evolutionary standpoint, it's crucial that we're able to forget about our exes and start fresh with someone new. So don't worry too much, things do get better with time. Surviving heartbreak is a deeply ingrained survival mechanism, even if sometimes the emotional scars can last for years. But hey, I can tell you're hoping for a happy ending for our dear Gustave, so let's make it happen just for you. So today, we explored what goes on in our brains when we fall in love, feel desire, and even experience heartbreak. Of course, science still doesn't fully understand what sets all of this in motion. Unlike other species, we have consciousness that lets us make each of our relationships unique and base our choices on our experiences and personal history, which adds a whole layer of extra brain activity into the mix. But what about you? How do you see it? Do you think love is just something humans invented to explain how we choose partners to reproduce with? Or is there something deeper at play, a mysterious force that makes love one of the most powerful emotions on Earth? In any case, I hope you enjoyed this little dive into the science of love. And if you're in a relationship, I truly hope it's bringing you joy and fulfillment. And if you've got your own thoughts or stories about love, drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.